Worldwide West Side guitar man Johnny Burgin is my guest for this episode. We talk about how he writes music on the road and pretty much all the time, rebranding, and carving out time for risk-taking on stage. Let's do it. This is the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. I'm your host, Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with me and indie music artists. Conversations intended to help other indie musicians be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Johnny Burgin was just at my house with his partner and producer Stephanie Tice. I organized and played my first house concert recently, which featured Johnny Burgin. It's been a month in the making, not a month, months, plural. And man, was it fun. We also did a Friday evening show at a local hotspot, also tons of fun, and we performed a blues cruise on a large catamaran. I don't know which was funner. They were all great. Johnny's a great performer, player, and singer. You can find links to some of our performances in the show notes at unstarvingmusician.com. Check them out. And most of my interest in this endeavor was in having a successful house concert, and we did. It was almost perfect, but I learned a lot, and if you're on my email list, you received my biggest takeaways. As expected, it was immensely gratifying. One fascinating aspect of Johnny's visit was being part of his life on the road for about a week. He and his partner Stephanie worked quite a bit during their week-long visit with us. They had some fun, too. We had some fun with them, but work was constantly in the background, and it was work to plan the next show, the next event, the next release, marketing, all kinds of stuff I was, probably don't even understand. We talk a little bit about this in the conversation you're about to hear. I suppose I should say big ups to my friends at Picasso's Restaurant and Bar. This is where we played our first show with Johnny, and I say we, that's me and one of my local bandmates, Volley, who is a great bass player, a great drummer, and a great guitar player, and a great sound engineer. And also to Tranquilo Retreat. They were hosts of our house concert. And last but not least, Coronado Concierge, who organized the Catamaran Blues Cruise. You can find links to all of those friends of mine in the show notes, again at unstarvingmusician.com. Hey, would you like to help other musicians find the podcast? Well, you can do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your favorites. It really helps with discoverability. And by the way, the Unstarving Musician Podcast is made possible through the generosity of listeners like you. To learn more about offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor. Okay, I want to get back to Johnny and Stephanie, but first I have a little something for those of you that own one of those Alexa devices. Apple Podcasts is now available on Alexa-enabled devices in the United States. So what that means is you can say things to Alexa like, Alexa, play the Unstarving Musician podcast on Apple Podcasts. Maybe you can just say, play the Unstarving Musician on Apple Podcasts. You can also tell her to do things like play the episode from yesterday of your favorite podcast, skip ahead 30 seconds, play the previous episode. It all sounds pretty cool if you are one of those people that have an Alexa. I don't have one, can you tell? I don't like the way she listens to everything I say. I'm going to put a link in the show notes where you can learn more about how you can play shows on Alexa. You might like that. Check it out at unstarvingmusician.com. Okay, so back to Johnny and Stephanie. Yep, they're great people. They did stay in our home for a little over a week, and Johnny is, again, an amazing player. He's a real pro. It was an honor to share some stages with him here locally, and a thrill to get some schooling from a bona fide blues player. I hope you do check out the videos of the performances I mentioned. They're pretty cool. I'm telling you, he's the real deal. Okay, please enjoy this chat with Johnny Burgin, which happened about a week before his visit. I'm going to try and have this come out before everything happens, which will be a task, but lest it happen after all the big splash we're talking about before we started the interview. You're coming here to do a little mini tour and have a little vacation. And Sammy and I here get to spend time with you. You guys are going to stay with us some of the time. And I think you're going to the Boquete Jazz and Blues Festival too, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Excited to go there and see Johnny Sansone and some of the other artists and check out the blues in Panama.
Yeah, should be fun. Did you get to connect with your friend that's going to be there?
Yeah.
Ahead of time? That's awesome.
Yeah, there'll be some jam sessions going on.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about them too, and I'm remiss for never going, but they are having a second one very close to us. They're calling it the Beaches Jazz and Blues Festival. It's going to be bigger, so I'm just going to wait for that one. And getting into Boquete, for people that are listening, it's a beautiful place, and you and Stephanie are going to trip out on it. The climate is cool, pleasantly cool, and it's in relation to the rest of Panama, except for Panama City, it has a concentration of art and just sort of things going on, nightlife-y sort of things, and it's like much of Panama, the nature aspects of it are really pretty, and there's a unique theater that they do the shows in, and as you mentioned, there are all these cool jams that go on. Now, the trick for locals, it's you got to figure out where to stay or book really in advance because accommodations are not huge there, but I understand you guys got that worked out, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
We were just saying, you and I, that it was back in December of 2017 when you recorded your first interview with me here for the Unstarving Musicians podcast, and I'm going to glance down at the title really quick because the thing that always, I put it in the title, the little soundbite that stuck out in my head ever since we did it was, why musicians shouldn't have a cell phone on stage, which I loved. But that was all the way back in episode 31. We are all the way up to well past episode 125 now. Can you believe it?
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great to have you as part of that. So I read that, I was reading on your 2019. Looks like it was really huge. You noted on your website that it took you to 25 states in the U.S., Canada, Japan, and all over Europe and the UK. What was that your kind of biggest year to date, or just kind of like something that you've been doing for the last few years?
I'd say the last 2 years have been my two biggest years, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm just working on keeping it up.
Well, what's been the best and or worst parts about that? Like, what were the things that were great about it, and if there was anything that sort of stands out that didn't work that you're going to kind of correct for in the year ahead? What are those?
Well, the hardest part, I think, is taking out time to plan your next year. You've got to take a lot of things are done farther and farther in advance, and all these different markets have different time frames for planning them. So you can get book yourself a really busy tour and do a great tour, but then you just missed an opportunity to book a better tour later because the time to do it was because that was the time to do it.
Yes.
So there's an opportunity cost to all that. So
yeah.
Balancing that would be that's kind of something I can improve on, I think. But other than that, as far as highlights, spending a month in Japan was really great. And we recorded a CD's worth of stuff that's going to come out called No Border Blues Japan. And I did play on all of it, and I sang on all of it. It'll come out on Delmark. I didn't sing on all of it. I sang on some of it, I meant to say. But I really want to feature all these more or less mostly unknown Japanese blues musicians that are kind of part of the Japanese blues underground. That of really strong traditional players with something to say, and this is going to be the first ever American release of anything like that.
Oh, that is so cool.
And that's going to be fun.
What was your, what impressed you, and I mean impression-wise, I'm trying to find the way to use that word, but I guess what was your most detailed or biggest impression of these players that you discovered there?
they're really doing it for the love, but they're just so good. There's a guy that plays and sings just like Carrie Bell, and they're just very it kind of renewed my soul to go play with them. Maybe because there's no blues society, there's no blues awards, and which are all great. It's all great, but there's no competition. Instead, it was just a spirit of togetherness. So it was the exact opposite of the kind of dog eat dog. I don't know. It was nice that it wasn't competitive, and that they were really. There's something about the blues that resonates to certain Japanese musicians that it's got a take on it that is really special. I was humbled and proud to be playing with them.
That's so great to hear. And I never really, I kind of forget about these things with the competitive or dog eat dog sort of feeling that you get around, or maybe you don't even realize how much you're around it until you're surrounded by a completely different environment.
Until it's just gone. Yeah.
And then maybe, I don't know if this is part of it, but I presume that there's still a pretty strong love for certain things American in Japan, and I would imagine that just the fact that you were there doing this with them was pretty exciting for them.
It was, because no one had ever bothered to recognize them. They hadn't got a lot of recognition. It's always nice to get recognition from your peers or from people that you admire. And it was just sincere. So it's a neat record and has a lot of variety, and it's really focuses on all these cool players. And there's a lot more women players in Japan too.
I'll be darned. That's nice to hear. I just had a conversation with a female virtuoso bass player named Ariana Cap, or Ari Cap. Speaking of ladies playing, she's something else, and she's a big online educator as well. But yeah, that's really cool to hear. Really cool to hear. And you just did. I was looking at, so last time we spoke, Neoprene Fedora was your latest solo thing, and somewhat on the heels of that thing at Greaseland. I guess they were actually two years apart in the release, but since then you have a release called Dos Hombres Wanted, and a live album that released last year. Can you talk about the first one, Dos Hombres Wanted?
Yeah, Dos Hombres Wanted, I did. That's another international project. I did it with a Spanish harp player, Quique Gomez, who I've worked together in Spain as well as in the United States off and on for the last almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And Quique is a great singer, great harp player. That came out on VizTone, and it did pretty well with the blues radio charts and got a lot of good reviews. And we had started it a few years back, and we finally finished it in Austin, Texas. And, when we drove out from San Francisco to Austin and back. When I got back, the odometer was exactly 5,000 miles. And we listened to one record the whole way there and the whole way back, George Harmonica Smith, Now You Can Talk About Me. So the record kind of sounds like George Harmonica Smith's Now You Can Talk About Me. And Quique sang some songs. He sang a song in Spanish, and he sang half of it. Now Quique's career is really taken off. He's recorded a CD singing with Little Charlie, and it's actually a Little Charlie CD. Little Charlie from Little Charlie and the Nightcats, the alligator artist. They're pretty famous. They were a very famous blues band in their day, one of the biggest selling alligator acts. So Quique's actually singing to Little Charlie now.
Oh, that's cool. No, it's always good to fill me in. You may not recall, I'm not immersed in the blues world as much as I love it. But so a lot of these things, people that we talk about, are often new to me. But I was thinking as I'm looking at the album cover that you guys did, that are kind of caricatures of you and Quique, I presume. And I was thinking he sure looks cool.
Oh, he's something else. And audiences just love him. He's really kind of flowered in California.
Nice.
But he does live in Madrid, and he's always going back and forth. And that's a cool record. And it's cool to have some blues sung in Spanish. And he's a fabulous singer.
Oh, cool.
So I'm happy with that one. And that sort of has lived its life. And then I did a live recording. These both came out this year. The live recording came out in August, and that features Charlie Musselwhite, Nancy Wright, the saxophone player, and Ray Gordon, the great singer, from my new home in Portland. I've also moved to Portland since the last time I talked to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's cool. And looks like Aki Kumar did a little work on there too?
Aki's on there, Kid Anderson, and my regular road bass player and drummer, Steve Doherty and Chris Matthews. They did a great job. And I just wrote a bunch of new songs and then got everybody together. We had one night to record them, and that's the record.
I'll be darned. So I thought you just went out and did some pre-existing stuff. Now I'm really interested to hear it.
Oh, man. Then this record has done the best. It's number one in Australia for blues radio airplay now.
I'll be darned.
It's been number 3 in the Living Blues charts for 2 weeks in a row, 2 months in a row, which is like the best I've accomplished like chart-wise.
Nice.
So it's a really solid record, and I'm really happy with it. And it was scary because I wrote a bunch of new songs, and then people like Charlie Musselwhite and Nancy Wright and stuff, I don't get to play with them all the time, or even Kid Anderson. You know, everyone's busy doing what they do. So they were playing new songs with people who don't get to play with that much, and we had one night to do it. So, but they're just so good. Everybody pulled together and nailed it.
That's cool. Well, are some of these people, are they kind of among your peers, the folks that like, all right, I gotta be on my top of my game, or are you very comfortable around all of them?
Oh no, they're all people I have a relationship with, and they were happy to do it. And you know, there's a nice spirit in the Bay of people like helping each other and you know, pulling together, and so that was fine. Although there was Charlie, I was a little nervous about Charlie, and we had to keep Charlie a secret.
Really?
The only person who knew about it was the engineer. Yeah, because we couldn't be like exploiting his name, and you know, it couldn't be like a Charlie gig or something. So it was just the way the management handled it.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
So nobody knew Charlie was going to be there except a drummer, my bass player, and the engineer.
Wow. That's kind of fun.
But Charlie and I had practiced. We went to went to his house and we practiced. It was Charlie's wife's idea and manager's idea to do a live record. Nice. And like, okay, let's do it. And we actually picked the venue because it was close to him.
Where was it done?
It's close to me too. It was done in Sonoma County, California.
Where at?
It was in Cotati, which was the next town up for me before I moved to Portland. Cotati.
I know the town. No,
called the Redwood Cafe.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a lovely area too. I can't say that I've been into Cotati, but I know of it. Had an acquaintance that was there and kind of familiarizing me with the town once upon a time, just by phone though.
There's a really famous.
So there's a really famous what?
Accordion festival there.
Of all things.
Yeah. If you like Zydeco and you like accordion music, then Cotati is very well known.
Wow. Yeah, I know a lot of people are into Zydeco, and what better place for an accordion to be? So, hey, I'm looking at your merch page, and it reminded me that you kind of rebranded. So you used to go by Rockin Johnny, and now perhaps you're going by the Worldwide West Side Guitar Man, which is cool. I liked Rockin Johnny, but I'm just a little curious about the change. And was there anything to the process that others might be interested in hearing about, or something you learned maybe?
Sure. You know, the main reason I dropped the Rockin is because now there's this whole like rock and blues thing. Like Joe Bonamassa is kind of like the king of rock and blues, or Papa Chubby, or lots of people, where it's like real distorted, and it's very much like kind of a 70s rock take on blues, you know? And that's like a really popular thing. And I do not play rock blues, you know?
Right.
I like rock and roll. I like 50s rock and roll. I just don't want to play rock blues, and I don't want to say my name is Rockin Johnny, but I don't play rock blues. No one should ever have to say that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that just given the current market conditions like that, I just can't call myself Rockin Johnny.
Yeah.
Even though I'll always be Rockin Johnny in Chicago, you know. Yeah, well, you can only drop a name so much.
Well, and I got, I was trying to have fun with it after we talked in our first conversation for the podcast. I would always try to find the opportunity to say something like, it's like my friend Rockin Johnny Burgin said. I just thought that was real fun to say.
Well, you can always call me Rockin', ma'am. You can, you're grandfathered in. You're
Great. So was there any, big deal to making the change, or was it just like, I'm just going to do it and it's done and, it's going to happen organically? Or
That's pretty much it. Some people still book me as Rockin Johnny because they think no one will know who Johnny Burgin is. So they'll still advertise as Rockin Johnny, and I'm not going to make a big fuss about it.
Yeah, sure.
I just made new stickers that say Johnny Burgin and new T-shirts that say Johnny Burgin, and I'm selling the old ones for real cheap, and that's it.
Well, I love the kind of tagline, the Worldwide West Side Guitar Man. I don't know what kind of mileage you can get out of that to get people to think of you differently, but I think it would be cool to have that on all your gear and merch in the future. But for what it's worth,
I could have that on a coffee mug.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm definitely looking for new merchandise avenues because, I will have a LP. It's being manufactured now.
Cool. For the Japanese, for the Live in Japan thing?
The Japan thing will have, No Border Blues will have an LP, and so will Johnny Burgin Live.
Is this the first LP you've done, vinyl?
It is.
That's fun, man.
I cannot wait.
That's fun. Do you have a collection at home, or have you had? Are you about to start one?
I have a turntable. I don't have that many. I've moved around so much that a lot of my possessions are scattered to the wind and scattered here and there between, you get divorced, you move around, things happen. So I don't have a vinyl collection anymore, but we do have a turntable, and, we'll just, it is tempting. I could spend a fortune on vinyl now.
Well, you
get a lot of cool vinyl out.
You can at least play your own on there when you get it. So,
and
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say.
There's a great record store down in Clarksdale. I was just at a Cathead, if you're ever in Clarksville, Mississippi, and they just had some of the best blues vinyl there. They had all this good Fat Possum stuff, and I was just kind of salivating. It's so much more fun to own vinyl.
Yeah.
So I miss my old record collection.
Yeah, sure. I was going to tell you that similarly, we have moved around a lot, but I was dragging the vinyl collection with me, and then I finally, put a working stylus on the turntable I had, and but then we moved to Panama, and I'm like, I just can't justify taking all these things. I paid to get my drum set here and a few things for the kitchen, I guess, and then the rest of it came in suitcases. But my turntable resides in the home of our mutual friend George Brandow now.
Unbelievable! Wow.
Every once in a while, I get a picture of him playing, some vinyl he's got, and I think I have a little bit of vinyl sitting at another friend's house there in Campbell, California. But anyway, I'm kind of like, I should just get another one and get a small collection going at least. They are a lot of fun, and I don't know, digitization of music has just kind of ruined me a little bit for appreciating sound quality, as I'm sure it has many, many, many people. Not everyone, but many. So I'm excited that you're going to do a vinyl project. We getting back to the tagline, as I'm referring to it, that I'm fond of now, the Worldwide West Side Guitar Man. We've been using that on the promo material here for your appearances in Panama. And I was mentioning to you that the house concert's on a waiting list, and the Blues Cruise is selling well. And then we've got a one-nighter at a popular little place called Picasso. So yeah, I've been sticking that in everywhere, and I'm about to shoot your bio out to one of the venues. But everybody's pretty excited. I even had someone say I heard, yeah, so and so can't make it to the house concert. He loves Johnny. I'm like, oh wow, he knows him. Cool. That's very cool. One time, you're not gonna believe this. One time I told, so there's a harp player here that you may meet when you're here. He's quite good. And we go to a mutual musician friend's house in the city one night to go listen to this blues and jazz jam, and he just happened to mention he was working really hard on learning this material by this guy named Aki Kumar. And I got to tell Aki that story not too long ago on the podcast, and he was, he thought it was pretty cool. Made it in Panama.
That's great.
Yeah. So, gosh, two albums since Neoprene Fedora, and another one.
There was another one too
coming out.
There was something called Chicago: The Blues Legends Today that came out.
Yeah.
By a good buddy of mine, Mike Natalia.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, he passed of ALS.
Oh no.
And that was another thing taking a while in the making. I recorded it right before I left Chicago, and it was Mike Natalia was a harp player from kind of near Philadelphia, and it was always his dream to come to Chicago and play with some real deal guys. So we got Mary Lane, who's well over 80 and sang with like blues legends like Robert Nighthawk and, James Cotton and stuff. And, she's still alive. She's actually up for a BMA now, and kind of a legacy sort of a BMA. And, I've got a long history with Mary, so we did something with her and this guy Milwaukee Slim and this really obscure guy named Little Jerry Jones that I had never even heard before. So that came out, and it came out pretty recently, but then it wasn't long after that he passed.
I'm sorry to hear that.
The Legends Day.
Yeah.
And it's available on CD Baby.
Oh, cool. Say the name of it again.
His name, Mike Natalia.
In the album?
Chicago: The Blues Legends Today.
Chicago: The Blues Lessons Today. Check that out on CD.
And it's a takeoff of, there was a very famous series on Vanguard that had James Cotton, the Otis Rush, and Homesick James, and all these people. And they're really famous records, and the cover was kind of a takeoff on that. And it was a great anthology of blues that's kind of like totally essential records that you have to have, So, a lot of people recognized it and got it. Just like the Howlin' at Greaseland had that cover that was like the Howlin' Wolf cover. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same kind of a thing.
Oh, nice. So you were saying that something about it being or starting before you left Chicago. So this was something. Did it actually take a few years for the actual album to come to fruition?
Yeah, it just took them a while between his health challenges and things to get it out. But it was also released since the last time I talked to you.
Yeah. So well, I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a cool project. Well, you've had a lot going on recording.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of it.
Cool. And all the, I was thinking, I'm glad to hear that the live album that did come out last year in August, if I'm remembering, we just talked about, but that it was all original material, because I was thinking at the outset of our conversation, why you've been touring so much, doing these live albums. I'm thinking, poor guy, you don't even have any time to write music, but you've managed to squeeze some in, and so that's great. I'm
stealing it in here and there.
Yeah.
I'm recording here and there. I just recorded in Dallas. I had Anson Funderburg as a special guest, and this young kid named Dylan Bishop. So I'm writing and recording, just stealing time away, and I'm working on my next thing. That's as good. Well, because the Japan thing isn't out yet, but it's completed. So I'm just working on the next Johnny thing, and I guess I was going to call it a guitar fiesta and make it mostly a guitar instrumental record.
Nice.
But we shall see.
Well, a lot of artists I know struggle to write amidst all the other things that they have going on, and I know you have tons going on just from the touring alone. Have you recently become a little more prolific with the writing, and or maybe it's been going on for a while? And sort of a two-pronged question. There's that one, and also, is there anything in particular that you do kind of religiously or habit-wise that's been helping you keep doing that when you're so busy with touring and whatnot?
My wife and I banter a lot. We have a lot of little banters, and she's always coming up with little zingers. And a lot of those end up being songs. She's really great for that.
Nice. Your muse.
So she helps me write songs. She'll come up with a phrase, and I'm like, that's a song. So, once you get it started, it's easy to sort of knock it out. And every time I go to Minneapolis, I sit down. I play with this guy Jeremy Johnson. Every time I sit down in his easy chair, I come up with a song, man. It's
why is
I guess
that?
it's like super or something. I just like being up there. There's certain places and people that kind of stimulate you, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a little superstitious, but I keep my ears open and and come up with phrases. If I can just get a good phrase, then you're halfway through a good song.
What a wonderful way to look at it. So after many, many years of not touching one, I picked up the guitar not too long ago, and I have aspirations to. I've already started working on writing some lyrics. I have aspirations to get good enough one of these days to be able to write some music, probably with a co-writer or something. But the early stages of me sussing out ideas for lyrics have been much more complicated than that. But I'm just going to remember that because something that I do, which maybe would be a source of inspiration, but maybe only because it's something I do and I could think about doing it for a different reason. But I have a little place that I try to write down I call it funny shit that I hear or come across, and I just write it down, sort of like if I was a stand-up comedian, I would I'd do a bit on this because it was that funny. But I love that Stephanie just comes up with zingers or whatever, and you get an idea from a phrase, and there goes the song. It sounds kind of, for me, I'm sorry, it's not very blues, but for me, it reminds me of, George Harrison or John Lennon or maybe Paul McCartney too. Like a phrase hits them and suddenly a song emerged. Yeah,
gotta keep your ears open. And sometimes, like if I wake up, pick up the guitar, very first thing I play is actually like just record it, and like that will be like a little riff or a skeleton or something.
Do you when you say when I wake up and play, is there most of the time something that's happening before you touch the guitar, or do you sometimes literally almost get out of bed and grab the guitar and just play something to see what happens, or because it's routine?
Yeah, I'll just if there's a guitar handy, I'll just grab it. I was home for about a month, and that's the first thing I do.
Before coffee or anything?
Grab the guitar and play something, yeah. And just play something, and sometimes it would really be like something that just sounded fresh and different. And then record it on my phone, and then go have a cup of coffee.
I was about to ask
a lot of it really is lifestyle. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Reverend Gary Davis. He was like a real genius guitar player from the 30s. Like no one will ever really be able to. People still try to play what he could play, but really nobody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
He practiced first thing in the morning, and then at night before he went to bed.
That's a great idea.
And like he was just so creative and free, And then there's the theory is like you're kind of working on it all day. You start it in the morning, and your brain is still working on it while you're going about your business, doing whatever else you have to do.
Yeah, and, there's this thing in I don't know what first I was going to say, business world, thinking world, I don't know, but I've heard it in a lot of different contexts, but this idea that if you intentionally go to bed with a problem or a thought, and writing a song, in a way it's a creative thing, but in a way it can also be a problem thing. It's sort of something you want to solve. There's a creative thing that you presented to yourself and you want to resolve it. But there's this, there may be some scientific data that I'm forgetting around it, but that you can, for instance, journal something that is a problem or preoccupation, and then sleep and you work on it subconsciously. Come morning, you often have whatever you were looking for, whether it was resolution to a problem or the inspiration maybe for a song.
That's true. And I guess that it's kind of working against like being on tour. Like if you're on a tour and you're going to a brand new place and it's people who've never seen you before and they paid money, then like that's kind of going against taking chances, You really have to give them, you really owe them your very best stuff that you know what it is. So that's like kind of it's on the performance side, but not on the creative side.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is but you got to carve out a bit of risk taking within the performance. So you have something for your brain to be working on for going forward. So you're not just doing the exact same performance all the time.
Yeah.
Because they want to see that too, They want to see you take a chance.
Even if they don't realize what just happened.
They know something happened. They could feel it. There's an excitement there,
Yeah. I believe that. I'm thinking of a musician friend that used to always tell me that he appreciated that I was regularly taking chances. A bass player, and he, I guess, enjoyed that, trying to find some new thing to do together. So, wow. So, going back to kind of the opening of our conversation, we were talking about all those places and shows that you did in 2019, and I also read about the roadmap for 2020. And it was just that phrase alone that kind of caught me, and I read a little bit of it, and here we are, we're a month into the year as of today. And so what is the roadmap for 2020 thus far?
Well, first thing I'm going to do is go to Panama.
Nice.
Yeah, and then we have I'm going to be touring the Southeast. I'm going to make it as far up north as Washington, D.C., and then go back down through New Orleans, Tucson, Phoenix, and L.A. And then I'm ducking over to Europe. I'm going to do some things with Aki Kumar in France and some of my own shows in the United Kingdom. And going back to L.A., playing with Tail Dragger at a festival. He's a blues singer. Gave me my start way back on the West Side. Then I'm going to Chicago to teach. Oh, wait, I'm going to Japan because we got a big the celebration for No Border Blues and some Japanese touring there. Then I'm going to Chicago and teaching and playing the Chicago Blues Festival. Then touring out east, Midwest and out east. And then my wife and I are going to go to Europe for about 3 months. We haven't planned that out so much yet. We're pulling our data together, and we're going to just go there and then skip the elections here and just work in Europe for most of the rest of the year.
Nice. That'll be fun. I know the feeling. My wife and I went to Europe just last year for our anniversary, and the sort of that phase of thinking about it, and for whatever your big trip in your life is, there's a lot of this part where you're thinking about it and you haven't planned it, it's coming, at least for some of us. I think some people really plan some trips all their lives, but it was fun. It was really fun. Where are you planning to go on that trip?
My first show that's booked is in Eisenach, Germany. It's kind of near the closest city to Frankfurt. And I'll do some things in Finland and Italy, and looking things now.
Nice.
So we haven't even decided where we're going to live.
How long will you be there? Like just the rest of the year, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know there's
almost the rest of the year.
When you said that, you travel for extended periods, so I guess that's a thing. Like, where are we going to live during that time? It's not where are we going to stay. Where are we going to live? I love that.
Right. Right.
So have you done...
Southern Germany, Northern Italy, Denmark. they're all on the table.
Sounds great. So speaking of coming to Panama, I don't recall, and I think we talked about it briefly, but have you done stuff in Central or South America or Mexico?
Only Chile. I went to Chile.
Okay.
And did some shows. That was in 2017.
Oh, wow. Kind of recently. I haven't been yet. I know I have a friend there too, but I would like to go. There's so many places to see just in this region. But do you think this visit, is it in any way an opportunity to think about how this area and the surrounding areas might be on the roadmap in 2021?
I'd love that. I hope so. I know there's a lot of blues artists that go to Argentina and Brazil, and one of these days that's something I'd love to work on.
Cool. Well, hopefully this will be sort of a beginning in some way for that. Would be great.
Sure would.
Yep. All right, Johnny.
We'll see.
Thank you for spending time with me today. So those of you that are listening, by the way, I was going to tell them the website that I know of, but is there also a new URL that redirects here, or is it still the same as it was?
Yeah, it's just, you can still go to Rockin Johnny Burgin, or you can just go to Johnny Burgin. It's all right there. JohnnyBurgin.com,
and it's JohnnyBurgin.com, or RockinJohnnyBurgin.com, and it's all there. And it's got a lot of good stuff there. Some great photos. Your bio, of course. Discography. A lot of cool videos. Looks like you guys are keeping on top of it. I like it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to see you really soon. So I usually tell my guests I'll be talking to you soon about the podcast episode, but I think I'll be talking to you about some performances before that.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Roberto, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Have you heard of Bandzoogle? Yep, they're powering websites for musicians all over the world. Their easy system will get you online fast. They have tons of mobile-friendly templates to help you custom design your site and content. It's built for musicians by musicians. They make it easy to sell merch, grow your email list, integrate your socials, and they offer support from a musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Plans are affordable. Go to bandzoogle.com to start a free trial, and be sure to use the promo code ROBONZO to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. Look for show notes and links to most everything mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. Thanks so much for listening. With a whole lot of gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell.